Graphites is one of the most commonly prescribed polycrest remedies in homeopathy. Persons with obese, stout, constipated and chilly constitutions, ladies with scanty, late or suppressed menses, skin conditions with eczema, thickness, cracks and glutinous discharges, indurations and cancerous tumors etc. are conditions considered to be indicating graphites as a homeopathic prescription. Graphite is a particular crystalline form of the element carbon naturally arranged as stacked layers of graphene or single-atom thick sheets of carbon, and is the most stable form of carbon under standard conditions. In very basic terms, graphene could be described as a single, one-atom thick layer of the commonly found mineral graphite. Graphite is essentially made up of hundreds of thousands of layers of graphene. Graphene, graphite and diamond are all made of the same carbon, but the difference between these materials is how the carbon atoms are arranged and bonded together. Graphene is a sheet of carbon that's just one atom thick, with strong bonds between them horizontally. Graphite is used in making pencils, lubricants, and electrodes. The military people uses graphite flakes to block electromagnetic waves that the enemy might detect and use to target troops in the field. Graphite flakes provide the military with protection beyond the visual and infrared spectrums. Graphite is a soft, crystalline form of carbon that occurs naturally and is also synthesized for various uses. Natural graphite usually is associated with such impurities as quartz, mica, iron oxide, titanium and granite. Graphene is made from graphite by peeling off the layers by various mechanical or chemical processes.
When graphite is subjected to the mechanical process of grinding known as trituration during the initial stage of homeopathic potentization, the crystalline structure of substance is broken, and graphene microsheets get peeled off as independent particles. These graphene particles then undergo molecular imprinting. Low potencies of graphites used in 3x or 6x potencies actually consist of these graphene particles. Homeopathic graphites potentized above 12C will contain only molecular imprints of graphenes, which can act as artificial ligand binds for graphene particles entering the body and producing various pathological conditions. Numerous studies have shown that graphene materials cause dose-dependent toxicity in animal cells, such as liver and kidney injury, lung granuloma formation, decreased cell viability and cell apoptosis. Graphite pneumoconiosis is a well-recognized pulmonary lesion that is found in workers involved in the mining and processing of graphite. Lungs diseased by graphite inhalation manifest characteristic pathological features. In general, they are diffusely discolored, ranging in appearance from grey to black, and are described as resembling sponges that have been soaked in ink. Microscopically, the lungs show a granulomatous reaction with areas of interstitial fibrosis, perifocal emphysema, necrosis, and severe vascular sclerosis. However, these changes are believed to be associated with impurities also, particularly silica, in the natural graphite dust. There have been reported numerous studies focused on graphene biomedical applications. Some of studies regarding the bacterial toxicity of graphene suggest that they may find future application in antimicrobial products. Results suggest that the cell membrane damage of bacteria caused by direct contact with the extremely sharp edges of the nanosheets was the effective mechanism in the bacterial inactivation.
Only a limited number of publications attempted to address the interactions of graphene and its derivatives with living systems. In vitro toxicity investigation suggests that graphene exhibit dose-dependent toxicity to mammalian cells such as human lung fibroblasts, epithelial and alveolar epithelial cells, neuronal cells as well as red blood cells, which strongly suggests that their biocompatibility must be considered when graphenes are applied for biomedical engineering. In high-dose graphene exhibited chronic toxicity, causing significant pathological changes, such as granuloma formation, mainly located in the lungs, kidneys, liver, and spleen. Oxidized form of graphene, graphene oxide, has been recently investigated for its ability to increase the in vitro fertilization outcomes. Thus, the potential use of graphene oxide against infertility is hypothesized here, probably by engineering the spermatozoa and thus manipulating them in a safer and more efficient way. Studies indicate that graphene in the highly dispersed and non-coated free form exhibit high in vitro cellular toxicity. Nanotoxicity assay revealed that graphenes were highly damaging to the cells, resulting in acute cytotoxicity. Little is also known about toxicity pathways for graphenes. Generation of ROS in target cells is considered to be a potential mechanism for toxicity. The extremely high hydrophobic surface area of graphene may also result in significant biomolecular and cellular interactions with membrane lipids, leading to indirect toxicity. Graphenes can also produce cytotoxicity in dose and time-dependent means, decreasing cell adhesion, and inducing cell floating and apoptosis. Studies indicate that graphene can induce cytotoxicity through the depletion of the mitochondrial membrane potential and the increase of intracellular ROS, and then trigger apoptosis by activation of the mitochondrial pathway. Graphene oxide interrupts anxiety-related neuron signals without affecting the neurons, or the surrounding cells. In simple terms, it only turns down the communications between specific neurons. Graphene is found in charred roasted meat and also in plant charcoal. Graphene as graphene oxide is produced on charring the surface of meat on a barbecue, forming nitrogen-doped graphene oxide originating from the pyrolysis of protein in air. While some studies suggest that graphene oxide can enter the cytoplasm and nucleus of human lung epithelial cells and fibroblasts, other studies indicate that graphene oxide cannot enter human alveolar basal epithelial cells. Moreover, cytotoxicity of graphene oxide was found to occur mostly during the initial contact stage of graphene oxide and cells and was independent of exposure duration. Thus, it is possible to draw the conclusion that physical damage of the cell membrane observation excludes the contribution of an oxidative stress mechanism, as that is a time-dependent process. Several studies attempted to address the interactions of graphene or its derivatives with different molecules. There is evidence which suggests that drugs and targeting molecules can be covalently attached to the graphene surface and edge site, or polymers may be adsorbed onto the graphene surface to enhance solubility and biocompatibility. The observations of different molecules-related graphene cytotoxicity effects may lead to the creation of an alternative and convenient route to engineer nanomaterials for safe biomedical and environmental applications. The biocompatibility of the functionalized graphene oxide and reduced graphene was analyzed along with the potential biological effects of the used dispersants in cells. The toxicity depended on the type of dispersant and concentration of graphene in the suspensions. Surface modification of graphene was reported to alter its toxicity, whereas graphene oxide organic conjugates were reported to reduce cellular toxicity to a remarkably higher degree than their native counterparts. The effects of graphene on root and shoot growth, biomass, shape, cell death, and ROS on cabbage, tomato, red spinach, and lettuce were scrutinized. Results suggest that graphene can significantly inhibit plant growth and biomass in a dose and time-dependent manner. The potential toxic effect of graphene also largely depends on plant species and, thus, should be given much further attention. There are relatively few studies concerning graphene anti-cancer activity. Graphene appeared to be excellent in vitro and in vivo tumor photothermal therapy agents. Significantly reduced viability of in vitro human glioma and human epithelial carcinoma cells was observed without exhibiting noticeable toxicity. Highly efficient tumor passive targeting of graphene has been observed in several different in vivo tumor models without utilizing any targeting ligands, such as antibodies. Even though graphene oxide is made with the same atoms as our organs, tissues and cells, its bidimensional nature causes unique interactions with blood proteins and biological membranes and can lead to severe effects like thrombogenicity and immune cell activation. Graphene oxide affects the body by causing various adverse impacts such as abnormal activation of immune cells and thrombogenicity. This is because graphene oxide has a bidimensional structure that generates unique interaction with biological membranes and blood proteins in the body, triggering severe effects. What that means is that the more carbon nanomaterials like graphene accumulate in the body, the riskier it can be for your organs to function adequately. On top of that, jagged nanoparticle edges were found in the immune cells, skin and lung cells. Graphene oxide promotes cancer metastasis through associating with plasma membrane to promote TGF-beta signaling-dependent epithelial mesenchymal transition. TGF-beta is a multifunctional set of peptides that controls proliferation, differentiation, and other functions in many cell types. TGF-beta acts synergistically with transforming growth factor alpha TGF-alpha in inducing transformation. It also acts as a negative autocrine growth factor. Dysregulation of TGF-beta activation and signaling may result in apoptosis. Many cells synthesize TGF-beta and almost all of them have specific receptors for this peptide. Interactions of graphenes with TGF-beta peptides might have serious so far unknown implications in the pathophysiology of cancer development and metastasis. Information detailed above regarding the biological roles of graphenes point to the importance of molecular imprinted or potentized forms of graphites in homeopathic therapeutics. Subjective and objective symptoms given in Materia Medica books, collected from minutest homeopathic drug provings of graphites on healthy individuals, provide an elaborate top-down view of its drug pathogenesis. Let us now go through the important symptoms produced by proving of graphites as given in Boric Materia Medica: constitution rather stout, of fair complexion, with tendency to skin affections and constipation, fat, chilly, and costive, with delayed menstrual history, take cold easily. Children impudent, teasing, laugh at reprimands. Tendency to obesity, swollen genitals, gushing leukorrhea in women. Aids absorption of cicatricial tissue. Induration of tissue. Cancer of pylorus. Duodenal ulcer. Great tendency to start. Timid. Unable to decide. Want of disposition to work. Fidgety while sitting at work. Music makes her. As per Materia Medica, graphite makes individuals mentally very apprehensive, with despondency and indecision. Rush of blood to head with flushed face, also with nosebleed and distension and flatulence. Headache in morning on waking, mostly on one side, with inclination to vomit. Sensation of cobweb on forehead. Feels numb and pithy. Rheumatic pains on one side of head, extending to teeth and neck. Burning on vertex. Humid, itching eruption on hairy scalp, emitting a fetid odor. Cataleptic condition. Ophthalmia, with intolerance of artificial light. Eyelids red and swollen. Blepharitis. Dryness of the lids. Eczema of lids fissure. Dryness of inner ear. Cracking in ears when eating. Moisture and eruptions behind the ears. Hears better in noise. Hardness of hearing. Hissing in the ears. Detonation in ear-like report of a gun. Thin, white, scaly membrane covering membrane tympani, like exfoliated epithelium. Fissures in and behind the ear. Nose sore on blowing, it is painful internally. Smell abnormally acute, cannot tolerate flowers. Scabs and fissures in nostrils. Feels as if cobwebs were on it. Eczema of nose. Itching pimples. Moist eczema around mouth and chin. Erysipelas, burning and stinging. Rotten odor from mouth. Breath smells like urine. Burning blisters on tongue, salivation. Sour eructations. Aversion to meat. Sweets nauseate. Hot drinks disagree. Nausea and vomiting after each meal. Morning sickness during menstruation. Pressure in stomach. Burning in stomach, causing hunger. Eructation difficult. Constrictive pain in stomach. Recurrent gastralgia. Flatulence. Stomach pain is temporarily relieved by eating hot drinks, especially milk, and lying down. Nauseous feeling in abdomen. Fullness and hardness in abdomen, as from incarcerated flatulence, must loosen clothing, presses painfully at abdominal ring. Croaking in abdomen. Inguinal region sensitive, pain of gas opposite the side on which he lies. Chronic diarrhea, stools brownish, liquid, undigested, offensive. Very fetid gas preceded by colic. Constipation large, difficult, knotty stools united by mucus threads. Burning hemorrhoids. Prolapse, diarrhea stools of brown fluid, mixed with undigested substance, very fetid, sour odor. Smarting, sore anus, itching. Lump stool, conjoined with threads of mucus. Varices of the rectum. Fissure of anus. Urine turbid, with sediment. Sour-smelling urine. Menses too late, with constipation pale and scanty, with tearing pain in epigastrium, and itching before. Hoarseness, coryza, cough, sweats and morning sickness during menstruation. Leukorrhea, pale, thin, profuse, white, excoriating, with great weakness in back. Mammae swollen and hard. Induration of ovaries and uterus and mammae. Nipples sore, cracked, and blistered. Decided aversion to coitus. Sexual debility, with increased desire, aversion to coition, too early or no ejaculation, herpetic eruption on organs. Constriction of chest, spasmodic asthma, suffocative attacks, wakes from sleep, must eat something. Pain in middle of chest, with cough, scraping and soreness. Chronic hoarseness with skin affections. Inability to control the vocal cords, hoarseness on beginning to sing and for breaking voice. Pain in nape of neck, shoulders and back and limbs. Spinal pains. Pain in small of back with great weakness. Excoriation between thighs. Left hand numb, arms feel asleep, fingernails thick, black, and rough, matrix inflamed. Edema of lower limbs. Toe nails crippled. Stiffness and contraction of toes. Nails brittle and crumbling. Nails deformed, painful, sore, thick, and crippled. Cracks or fissures in ends of fingers. Offensive perspiration of feet. Rough, hard, persistent dryness of portions of skin unaffected by eczema. Early stage of keloid and fibroma. Pimples and acne. Eruptions, oozing out a sticky exudation. Rawness in bends of limbs, groins, neck, behind ears. Unhealthy skin, every little injury suppurates. Ulcers discharging a glutinous fluid, thin and sticky. Cracks or fissures in ends of fingers. Offensive perspiration of feet. Rough, hard, persistent dryness of portions of skin unaffected by eczema. Early stage of keloid and fibroma. Pimples and acne. Eruptions, oozing out a sticky exudation. Rawness in bends of limbs, groins, neck, behind ears. Unhealthy skin, every little injury suppurates. Ulcers discharging a glutinous fluid, thin and sticky. Swelling and induration of glands. Gouty nodosities. Cracks in nipples, mouth, between toes, anus. Phlegmonous erysipelas of face, burning and stinging pain. Swelling of feet. Wens. Generally worse by warmth, and at night, during and after menstruation. Generally better in the dark, and from wrapping up. All these symptoms of graphites produced by drug proving actually represent the diverse types of biomolecular inhibitions and associated errors in various biochemical pathways caused by the action of molecular forms of graphene in the living organisms. To be a really scientific analysis as envisaged by MIT, we have to study each and every one of these individual trains of symptoms deeply, relating them with the molecular targets as well as underlying biomolecular inhibitions happened due to the drug actions. Tendency to obesity, general chilliness and tendency to menstrual disorders in women point to some errors in the actions of thyroid hormones, caused by the interventions of graphenes in the hormonal pathways. Biochemistry as well as pharmacology have to advance a lot further to be capable of providing enough data required for such a deep study. Present study is only an initial step in this direction.